Hey guys, got Bear down here and Angel over there deciding if she wants to sit down. We'll see how this goes. But today I'm going to be reviewing the Outlaw Audio Ultra-X13s. And special thanks to Outlaw Audio for sending out their brand new flagship subwoofer. I really appreciate it. I'm not an Outlaw Audio affiliate, but I'd sure love to be based on these subs and their amplifiers. Their amplifiers are really a good value option for guys that want to go external amps for their amplifier, for their AVRs, but that can get really expensive. But they've got some really good value options there. And if you guys want to support the channel, you can go through the Amazon links down in the description. Just keep in mind that those are 24-hour tracking. And probably another good way to go is just go to the list. I'll put the links down below right before you order, and then just click on the link from the list. It'll take you to where you can order these things. I'll also be doing an Amazon review on these, so you can check that out. Right now, these subs are so new, there's not even a review up yet. So I'm going to do that at some point. But I expected to have some issues with these subs because they're downfiring. If you guys have followed my channel before, you know I've had issues with previous subs being downfiring. And it's the wood floor that makes the difference. If you have a concrete floor, none of this really matters to you. But for guys with wood floors that are real active, that stomp and stuff like that. Oh, sorry, Bear. If you stomp on the floor and you get a big sound back, you've got an active floor and it might have more of an issue. But the thing is, it wasn't as bad as I expected with these. You can tell that they're downfiring subs, but it wasn't as bad as before. And I think what that is the increased weight, because these have twice the power as the subs did before, but they also have twice the weight. And I think it's the weight that really makes a difference. And I actually talked to Super Dan 43, he's another YouTuber, and he had two very similar subs, both downfiring. One was twice the wattage, but also had more weight to it. And I asked him, well, which one caused more rattles for you? And he said the one that was heavier. So it made sense. So what I did was I actually leaned over these and put my weight on both sides of these subs and played some really heavy duty content. And what I noticed was that while leaning over, I could feel the driver moving up and down. Now, it wasn't terrible or anything like that, but that up and down motion does translate into the floor, and I think the heavier the sub is, the less it's going to translate. So you can imagine these things weigh about 100 pounds. Imagine if they weighed 15 pounds with the same size driver in it. These things would be bouncing all over the place. You go the opposite direction and say, okay, imagine these things weighed 800 pounds. This up and down motion probably wouldn't be as easily felt in that same situation. So I really do think weight plays a role in all of this. And if you guys have downfiring subs on a wood floor, it might be worth trying to add some weight if you can do so safely and see if it makes a difference. It's just one of those things I noticed in this whole process I found interesting. But the X13 is THX rated in a single subwoofer. And so with a single subwoofer, it meets the output requirements while still remaining within the distortion limits that THX requires. And again, I still recommend going dual. No question about it. I still think duals are absolutely vital, but these can pass the THX requirements in a single sub configuration. The THX rating isn't public, so I have no idea what the requirements are. I know that lower distortion and the amount of output are obviously important factors, but exactly what all that means, I don't know. It's kind of a secret. And this sub does have 6 modes, but only one of them is THX rated, and that's the all ports open EQ2 setting. And my favorite wasn't necessarily the THX mode. I really preferred the all ports open EQ1. The EQ1, whether it's 1 or 2 ports open, give me the presentation of depth that I personally prefer. So that's just something I noticed in using it. And it's really important too that anytime you have variable port subs, or anytime you have subs that have different configurations, run room correction in those configurations. If you run room correction in one configuration and then change it over to another, if you actually measure that with Room EQ Wizard, you'll actually see a pretty big difference. And the graph won't be quite as flat as if you were to run the room correction in the configuration you're wanting to listen to. So that's, I've talked about that before, but that's, anytime there's a variable port sub, you want to do that. It has a 1000 watts RMS and a down-firing 13-inch driver and down-firing ports to reduce port noise. And the amp goes through a series of checks when it's first powered on. So if you try and plug it in and immediately try and run it, it's going to take a minute to go through all these checks and balances that it goes through. I talked with Ben over at Outlaw Audio about that. When it first powers up, it goes through a bunch of different checks, and then it goes to the functioning portion. Once it's powered up, auto on isn't necessarily long or anything like that. It's reasonably quick, but it's one of those things where if you go to power it down, what you want to do is when you power it off, let the LED lights go all the way off before you power it back on. I tried to power it off and power it right back on because I was switching things out, and it didn't really like that. But if you let it just power cycle all the way off and power back on, it's no issue. This isn't a complaint. It's just one of those things that someone might get hung up on. And the reason you'd power cycle it off is if you're unplugging your amplifier or moving the RCAs around or doing something like that. You don't want to unplug the RCAs while the power's on. That's a bad thing. That's true of any subwoofer, not just these. But that's why you'd power them off, and that's why I was saying if you do power them off, wait for that power cycle to go through and then power it back up. But anyway, once I have my favorite configuration, I really enjoyed the power of these subs. 1000 watts RMS is a lot of fun. And all the important characteristics of a good subwoofer are checked. A lot of the subs that I put on the list are subs that I've never heard before, but they meet what I think is important. They have a good reputation, good customer service, things like that. Everything is just, it's right. These, again, the list is a list of subwoofers that I would actually consider spending my own money on. And these subs pass that test. I think they're good value. I think that, it's important because there are subs on the list, if it doesn't say verified next to it, verified meaning I've listened to them, I've enjoyed them in my home, I know what they sound like, then they're up on the list because I think they'll be a good sub, not that I know. So that's an important distinction to make. But these subs, they're a solid build, very well reinforced cabinet, a very stout driver, a very stout amplifier. And one of the things that these subs in particular excel at is you can hide them. And that may seem a little like these are big, but you can actually use these as end tables and use them convincingly as end tables. You put like a tablecloth over the top of them because the finish on them, I don't know if you can see the shiny top there. You don't want to scratch those up. So you'd want to put some sort of tablecloth over them or something to protect the top. But they're actually really passable as an end table. They're the right dimension, they're tall enough, all that good stuff. So that's kind of cool. They come with a 3-year warranty, which includes driver and electronics, which is neither the longest nor the shortest in the industry. I think it's a pretty fair warranty. You can get an aftermarket warranty, a 4-year warranty through Square Trade, but the trick is you have to order it on Amazon, and then so you have to buy the subwoofer on Amazon, and you have to buy the warranty on Amazon. If you buy the subwoofer elsewhere and then try and buy the Amazon warranty, it won't work. So that's an important distinction that I just got off the phone with them a few minutes ago to check on that. I thought you'd be able to get a 5-year, but it turns out that's only for TVs. But in order to get the longer warranty, you'd have to go through Amazon to be able to order that warranty. So that's an important thing to understand. And the return policy on these, you pay the initial shipping, they'll pay the return shipping. So let's say you order these, you get them out, you're not happy with them for some reason, you call them, do the return process. When you get a credit, as I understand it, the credit would be less the original shipping. So it's a pretty fair return policy there. And I'll say that these are particularly ideal for someone with a concrete floor who wants to use the sub as end tables and still want the deep bass performance that I always talk about. So that's kind of cool. They really fit that niche really well. And as always, guys, go dual or go home. Split your budget. If you're looking to get just one of these, split your budget and get 2 subs for the same money. I'm not necessarily saying spend twice the amount. That's true of any sub. I cannot express how important duals are. It really makes all the difference in the world, in my opinion. I also find them more comfortable to listen to when they're duals. But these subs are very comfortable with a good response curve that isn't peaky. None of the subwoofers on the list are peaky, but it's an important qualification, I think, because a lot of subs are a lot louder at 60 and 70 hertz and a lot quieter at 20 to 30 hertz. And that's what I consider a really bad subwoofer. These are a good subwoofer. They get a little bit louder as they go deeper, which is what I consider correct. But again, it's just one of those things I've noticed on these subs. And again, another thing I want to say good about Outlaw is they've got crazy good value on their amplifiers for their AVRs and stuff like that. You can go external amplification for $600 for a 5-channel amplifier. It's a really good deal. And again, another thing that brings me to the amplifiers, there's no need, at least I didn't notice any need, to change anything power circuit-wise. These don't drain a bunch of energy. Some more pedestrian subwoofers can actually cause dimming and stuff like that, or actually cause you to trip a breaker. These subs do not fall in that category. They've got good capacitance, so that's another good thing to know. But you know, I've seen some other guys that say, oh yeah, I've got these really, I'm not going to use the brand, but really kind of junky subs, and they had a bunch of power draw and they're actually tripping breakers. But these use enough capacitance where that's not an issue. They're a good efficient amp. But anyway, guys, I really enjoyed these. These are the only THX rated end tables that I'm aware of. So these are really good subs. They really fit a particular niche for people that want to use them as end tables and things like that. They're like, I can't get over that. That's really one of those things I really noticed about these. But anyway, guys, I enjoyed them. Thanks again to Outlaw for sending out the brand new flagship. I really appreciate the chance to check them out. And again, guys, please subscribe.